Hello everyone, my name is Seth, and today I want to give you my review of Agatha All Along. Agatha All Along is the latest Disney Plus Marvel show, and when they first announced it, I wasn't necessarily all that excited for it. I was a little bit surprised that they were going to do a show solely based on Agatha. I didn't really think we needed it, but the only reason I was interested in it to just begin with was Kathryn Hahn. She's awesome, and it's part of the MCU, kind of a continuation of the WandaVision story. So I was like, okay, we'll see where this goes. I ended up liking the trailers, but of course I didn't know where this was going to go, but I'm happy to say that I was definitely pleasantly surprised by this show. But before we go any farther, go ahead and like this video, hit subscribe, and hit the bell icon so you never miss a video. We just recently crossed 250 subscribers, so thank you so much. We're on the road to 300, so if you're new here, please subscribe. It would absolutely make my day. And if you're not new here, make sure to share this video with any friends and family. It really helps out the channel a lot. So the first bit of this review, I'm going to do spoiler-free, and then I'll let you know when I'm going to dive into a few spoiler things here and there. But first, I want to say this is the first Marvel Disney Plus show to actually have a showrunner, and that showrunner was Jack Schaefer. She was one of the creative minds behind WandaVision. So I was definitely excited to see what she would do here, and I was definitely excited to see Marvel actually have a showrunner for their shows. I think that was probably part of the reason some of their shows felt odd, but this one actually feels cohesive. It actually feels like a show. But overall, I really enjoyed Agatha All Along. I look forward to each episode. I don't think it's the best Marvel show. I think that title might go to WandaVision or maybe Loki, but it's up there with some of the best Marvel Disney Plus shows. There's a couple things here I just want to give them some credit for, and even though it might seem simple, this is stuff that the Marvel shows, even the Star Wars shows on Disney Plus have struggled with. The first thing is that there's more than 6 episodes. There's so many shows from Marvel or Star Wars where they're just like 6 episodes, and that just doesn't work. And this one had 9 episodes, and they were all relatively longer for the Disney Plus shows. There was one that was a little bit too short for my liking, but other than that, I feel like each of them felt like a full episode of TV. And that leads to another thing I want to give them credit for, is that this felt like a show. It felt like a real show. It didn't just feel like kind of a long movie that was just kind of awkwardly cut up to make a show. This seems like from beginning to end, they were planning this out as a show, and they knew exactly what they wanted to do and when they wanted to do it. Each episode feels like a complete chunk of the story while leading you perfectly into the next episode. Each episode has a beginning, a middle, and an end. And even though that kind of seems silly to praise them for, like I said, that's something that they have struggled with in the past. Everything just feels cohesive in this show. And I think that's a big part of having an actual showrunner. It seems like that's what Marvel is going to be doing moving forward. And I think that Agatha All Along shows, it kind of proves that that's probably the right thing to do. And they probably should have been doing that from the beginning. So in this, we follow Agatha after the events of WandaVision. She gets help from a teen, and she breaks out of Wanda's spell. Then they embark on the Witch's Road to reclaim her powers and also discover what the teen's motivations are. Like I mentioned before, I like the pacing. I think the pacing through this whole show is very well done. They do a great job of bringing up questions and then answering those questions. But while answering those questions, they bring up a few more questions, and you just want to learn more about these characters. You want to learn more about what they want. You want to follow them on this story. They just do a great job of bringing in new elements as the show goes on, just to keep you interested. And this show overall has a very similar vibe to WandaVision, so I think if you like WandaVision, you probably will like this show. We get to a point in this series where just about each episode we're going through a different trial on the Witch's Road, And I really liked that format. I thought they definitely took advantage of that. But each time we moved forward, each episode, we forced our characters to make decisions. And because we force them to make decisions, we end up learning more about our characters. Overall, this is just a really well-written show. And there's one episode where we do a bunch of jumping back and forth in time, and that very easily could have gotten old or annoying or confusing, but it didn't. That ended up being probably my favorite episode of the series. It helps give context to one character in particular, but it also helps give context to some other moments throughout the show. I think all of the characters are well written and they mix very well together. Part of that is the performances, but part of that is the writing. And another thing they do a really good job of is when they force the characters to make decisions, the characters make decisions that make sense for them. They just don't make a decision because the script says they have to. And I will say, I do love how they resisted the obvious temptation to kind of turn Agatha into an anti-hero since it's her show. But they don't do that. She's a villain all the way through the show, and I really like that. And speaking of Agatha, Kathryn Hahn is incredible. She's just a fantastic performer in general. I love seeing her pop up in anything. She was one of the main reasons I was even just a little bit excited about this show when they first announced it. She gives a really amazing performance. We have a lot of range from her in this. She shows a lot of emotion in this series. She's really funny in this. She's also a heartless villain, but we also do get to see kind of a softer and more loving side to Agatha. And Kathryn Hahn nails every single bit of that performance. She does a great job with whatever the script asks of her. Kathryn Hahn absolutely shines in this, and she's, like I said, just a fantastic performer. Joe Locke does a really good job in this series as Teen. I haven't seen him in anything before, but I enjoyed his performance. When I watched the trailers, I thought his character, maybe his performance would kind of be annoying. That's just kind of the vibe I got from the trailers, but it wasn't like that at all. He gave a good performance. He was asked to do some pretty difficult things acting-wise, and I think he did a really good job with it. He did a really good job even with the little tiny details of his performance. And he and Kathryn Hahn have incredible chemistry. I love anytime those two are on screen together. Aubrey Plaza is good all throughout this series, but I think her performance gets even better when she's allowed to be a little bit more unhinged. Patti LuPone, Ali Ahn, Sashir Zamata, and Deborah Jo Rupp kind of round out the rest of this kind of ensemble cast, and they all do a really good job. They all have their own moments to shine. And even though they aren't the main focus of this series, they do a really good job of just help add different levels to this show. They all do a great job with their roles, and they all have really good chemistry together. And all of their performances, just all of their chemistry, it just helps elevate this series. One thing I'll give Marvel credit for on this is it's one of their cheapest series they've ever done, and I think it ended up working out really well for them. I'm not saying that everything needs to be super cheap now, but I don't really think this show called for it to be really expensive. Something like Secret Invasion, I have no idea where that budget went. But here, everything just worked. Everything felt so grounded. They did as much practically as they could, and it just really helped ground everything. They had to get creative with some of the shots and some of the practical effects that they did. It made for some really nice sets. I think the only time you can really tell about the budget is when there's some more magic stuff, and there's really not like a ton of like over-the-top magic stuff, but it makes sense for the story. So before I jump into any spoiler talk, I just want to say, overall, I really enjoyed Agatha All Along. It's not the best Marvel show, but I think it's up there with some of the better Marvel Disney Plus shows, and I want to see more from these characters. I want to see more from this creative team. It's well-paced, it's well-written. Kathryn Hahn is incredible, as always. And if you liked WandaVision, I think you'll like this too. All right, so real quick, I just want to jump into a couple of spoilers. So be warned, if you have not seen this show, we're talking about some spoilers. If you don't care, that's fine, just stick around. But here we go, we're going to jump right into some spoiler talk. We find out that teen is William Kaplan / Billy Maximoff. I think the episode all surrounding his past and kind of William becoming Billy, I think that was all done very, very well. I think they took kind of a complex and maybe even convoluted origin in the comics, and they did a very good job of kind of streamlining everything for the show. And I think the filmmaking and the performance from Joe Locke really helps sell that transition. And so we find out his goal on the Witch's Road is to find Tommy. And the final episode ends with us knowing Tommy's out there and we're gonna try to go find him. I think Aubrey Plaza as Death is pretty perfect casting, to be honest. And when I mentioned that I think her performance gets even better whenever she gets to be a little bit more unhinged, that definitely comes after the reveal that she is Death. And she just has like a perfect evil laugh. I also love the revelation that, like his mother conjuring the whole hex in Westview and conjuring Billy and Tommy, Billy actually conjures the Witch's Road. It wasn't a thing until he made it a thing. And in the past, Agatha was using the idea of the Witch's Road just to kind of trick and kill the other witches and drain their powers. And like I suspected, kind of about halfway through this series, Agatha does die at the end of this, although you could put die in kind of air quotes because she's back as a ghost, kind of hanging around with Billy. And I wouldn't be surprised at all if we see her like fully back sometime in the future. But I love that one way or another, Agatha and Kathryn Hahn will return. I thought some of these reveals, as well as that backstory episode with Agatha, was done very well. That's just some very good acting, very good filmmaking, very good writing. And overall, I really enjoyed this series, and I'm looking forward to what's next. You know, they've been placing these characters kind of throughout the different movies, the shows. I kind of find it hard to believe that they're not eventually going to do something with the Young Avengers. I mean, we have a lot set up at this point. We just kind of have to get them all together and have a reason for that team to exist. So I think that'd be fun if they get to that eventually somehow. I don't know exactly how that would look. I don't know if it would end up being a movie, which I think would be great. I don't know if they would want that to be a Disney Plus show or even like a Disney Plus movie. But I think especially after this, we can say with some certainty that the Young Avengers will have some kind of role going forward in the MCU. And I think that's very interesting. But that's it. That's my review of Agatha all along. Have you seen this show? Let me know what you thought in the comment section down below. Be careful if you're down there in the comments because there might be some spoilers floating around there through different discussions here and there. So just be aware of that. But thank you so much for watching. I really appreciate it. Don't forget to like this video, hit subscribe, and hit the bell icon so you never miss a video. You can follow me on social media pretty much anywhere at CinemaSeth, and I'll see you next time.